Hi everybody, and thanks for joining our webinar today. This is our second monthly webinar, and today we're going to be covering off a sort of September market and providing a little bit of an insight into property health checks, why they're an important tool, why you should be doing them, and what one covers off. Before we do go into that, I'll just give you a little bit of an introduction to myself and to Kristian, who's joining me this month. So for those who haven't spoken to me before, my name is Chris Stone. I'm the business director at ERE Property. My role here, I oversee the lettings department and the team and the growth of that department. I've got 12 years industry experience, 5 of those at a senior management level for sort of 2 large corporates, and I am ALA qualified.
Hi guys, my name is Kristian. I'm the business development manager for ERE Lettings. So I'm heavily involved in assisting our landlords expand their portfolies, find the right kind of things that they're looking for. I have got 6 years lettings experience across different areas and different companies. And I do have the experience as well for external property sourcing. So looking for other opportunities outside of ERE.
So we'll go into our September market update. I think everybody who's involved in the industry already will be aware that September followed suit for the majority of this year and is unbelievably strong. The team were really successful with the small amount of stock that we have coming back onto the market at the moment in securing good quality tenants quickly and achieving rental growth on the majority of those properties within the portfolio as well. So average rents are sitting outside of London at sort of £1,061 a calendar month. Monthly rates, so rental growth, it did actually slow down a little bit in September. I think there is a feeling that although there is still a supply issue, there is still significant demand within the market for people who are looking for rental properties. Affordability is now starting to become a bit of an issue. We will go on to this in a little bit more sort of detail in a moment or so, but generally there is around about 30% is what people are sort of spending salaries on rent. And whilst there are still huge amounts of people looking for rental property, referencing and affordability are becoming a bit of a problem. People are sort of starting to stretch themselves, and with referencing providers being very thorough at the moment with rent guarantees, rent and legal insurance has been a big thing at the moment, and that is going to start playing a part in those rents. But annually, those figures continue to be strong over the last 12 months. So September 2020 to September 2021, growth sits at 7.5%, including London. Again, we're going to touch on London slightly because it does look like there's potential bounce back there. Where that's been a part of the market that's unfortunately been dragging those figures down. For the first time, it actually pushed them up. So the average rent in London now does sit at a new high, so £1,752 a calendar month. And you can see there the monthly rate of rental growth was 6.4%. So whilst the UK sat at 0.8%, the London growth was 6.4%, and you can see what that's done for the rest of the sort of country, like I say, where it's been dragging it down historically. For the first time, it's given it a really good push up. So rent in Wandsworth increased by 13.9%. That's the strongest performing borough in London. The signs through for London are strong. It does look like that market's now coming back. I think that's an injection that the UK economy, the UK property markets needed. And whilst it is early days, there are green shoots, and hopefully they'll continue. I sort of touched on affordability. So renters are spending sort of 29.6% of their gross income on rent. This does include London. Where you include London, that actually increases significantly. The Northwest saw the greatest change, with renters spending 27.2% of their income on rent. So that's 27.2 is up from 25.8, I think it was sort of a year ago. Where these figures are going to start having an impact on the market is going to be new tenants, and the demand is clearly still there. But what we are starting to see And this is going to have an impact on that percentage, and that percentage I feel is now going to sort of start flatlining a little bit or increasing less drastically on achievable rent is the affordability. There are a lot of landlords who are cautious about tenant arrears. They're cautious about the delays that the courts are experiencing and the bailiffs are experiencing. So there are more landlords taking rent and legal policies and insuring their portfolio. That is meaning that they're having to be realistic in their expectations. They're having to play the importance of a rent guarantee policy off against a rental increase, and a lot are choosing to potentially not increase their asking prices quite as much, but make sure that they can get that rent guarantee insurance still. So regional figures, so we can see while the country is still sort of over the 12-month period performing well, the North East increased by 3.6% over the last 12 months, Yorkshire and the Humber 7.7%, East Midlands 8.4%, the North West continues to be strong at 7.8%, Greater London you can see there 6.4%, but last month alone was sort of 2.3%. Pass you over now to Kristian, who's going to talk through property health checks, give you a bit of an insight as to what they are and why they're important.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. Property health checks, I think that over the last few years, I've definitely found helping landlords sort of get back into the swing of things with finding out just how well their investments are actually doing compared to when they first bought them. It is really important to continually do that. So here at ERE, we are doing a big push on helping landlords that we currently have and landlords that are potentially with other agents at the moment. Market is definitely back on the rise after the impact of COVID, and now is the ideal time to be starting to look at this. Chris rightly said at the start, tenants aren't moving as much, so we need to start looking into how can we maximise your value where it is right now with the tenants in situ. And it's also a chance for you to compare the growth from when you first bought it to how it's doing in the current market and what it could be doing in the next 2 to 3, maybe even longer down the line. As we all know, lettings industry is subject to plenty of changes. The government are always throwing in new things to the minefield for us to figure out and help the landlords through. So what we want to do is make sure that you feel fully compliant, fully safe. There's a few things in there where we can check all the relevant safety documents. So that will be things from your energy performance certificate, your electrical installation, condition reports, right the way through to checking that you've got valid insurance that's going to protect you, the contents and the property should anything go wrong. It's also an opportunity for you to assess your next move. You know, it might be a case that you're thinking about releasing some equity and purchasing another. How do I do that? Where should I be looking? Alternatively, you might be looking to sell a unit and reinvest it somewhere more central, closer to home, or maybe you found somewhere that you think, actually, I've seen the rents in that location are on the rise and I want to jump in before it all gets too crazy and hectic. So that's exactly what the property health check does. It gives you a full 360 view of your investments and how we can make sure we're going to achieve optimal values and look after them the whole way through. So just coming on to what the property health check with ERE includes there and then, a full portfolio rent review with accompanying documents to show what the optimal rents are in the current climate. So what I mean by that is, let's say you've got a tenant that's been in situ for the last 2 years and you've got no idea whether the rents have gone up, gone down or stayed indifferent. That's an opportunity for me to say to you, right, current climate actually means you could be looking at an extra £75 a month. So that, again, we're already thinking about how we can increase your value, make sure your investment's bringing in as much money as possible. We'll check that you are up to date with all the legislation, make sure that you're fully safe and compliant. There's a big thing sort of going around. Landlords want to know, managing agents have got their best interests at heart. We absolutely do. We really do take care of all of our clients here, majority of them being overseas. So it's a big thing for them to understand that everything's being looked after for them here. A chance for us to look at the current condition of your units. I think sometimes we come away from the fact of, yeah, tenant's been in there for a while, there's no need for me to do any upkeep on it. I actually think that we want to stay on top of that. And the reason being is in 3-5 years, if you decide you want to sell it, We want the condition of that property to be at the best, we want to achieve the best possible value. So going in there, just having a look around, making sure your tenants are happy. If there's any issues, long-term issues that haven't been dealt with, let's get those looked at. Let's get some quotes sorted, and really just take care of the full portfolio. There's also a full sales review. So not just from a lettings point, I am the lettings business development manager, as I say, but it's nice for you to see how well they're doing, capital gains, all these good things. We want to get all of that sent across to you. The more information that you've got, the better. And finally, a chance for you to talk to us about what you're looking for in an agent. No two landlords are ever the same. We very much like to tailor-make the service here at ERE, and that's an opportunity for us to find out what's important to you. We do believe building strong, lasting relationships with our landlords, and we do want to be the team that helps you achieve all of your property goals. So the property health check is there for you to take advantage of.
Thanks, Kristian. So we will now just look at sort of a couple of the questions that have come in. So obviously, when you register, you're given an opportunity to leave a question on there. Anything that you are wanting a bit of information on, any queries that you might have on the market. So Kristian's going to cover off the first two, and I'll pick up the last two.
Perfect. Yeah. So tips you give to a first-time landlord. The main one is always going to be do the homework, do the background, speak to an expert, find out as much information as you can before making any decisions. We're always here throughout the week. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have. And even if I don't know the answer, I will definitely assist you in finding it out. Best locations for investment. It's a bit of a tough one. I think that's very personal to the person. I think that it all depends on what you're looking for, the budget, the location. Specific sort of advice is going to be really important on that. Now, there will be a link after this for my Calendly. If there's any questions on where you're thinking, right, Chris, I've got X amount and I want to spend it somewhere in the UK, where should I be looking? That'll be an opportunity for you there. Jump in on Calendly. It's a half an hour or a 60-minute chat with myself. We can get to understand what you're looking for and go through it from there.
Okay, so the $1 million questions, what's London up to and what we're predicting for an interest rate? So firstly, some market forecast for the next 3 to 6 months in London. Like we touched on earlier on, hopefully it's going to be a strong forecast. Does look like it's sort of steadied out a little bit, that we're starting to see that curve come back and that we're starting to see rents increase. There are going to be factors that sort of come into account that we need to take into account. Firstly, today, budget day. What's Rishi going to say? What help is coming for landlords, for tenants, is going to be significant, because obviously anything in the budget normally impacts the financial districts down there quite significantly. And also, what are the ongoing effects of COVID? What is going to happen? What our working environment's going to look like? Is working from home going to become the new norm? Are we going to enter a sort of hybrid working environment where people commute into offices a couple of days a month and then work from home for others? These are all factors that are going to have an impact and going to have a say in what happens to the London market. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't know the answers. It is going to be we're going to have to wait and see on that one. But the early signs are that there is a strong economic bounce back on the way. London's going to benefit from that significantly, and hopefully rents are going to increase. Interest rate forecast and the effects of the property market. I think it's a given that there's a lot of feeling within the market that there is going to be an interest rate rise, not if, but when. Is that going to get pushed down the line a little bit by the increasing cost of fuel, by the increasing cost of gas, by the supply chains issues that potentially are going to force the cost of living up? We don't know. I do believe it is going to be on the horizon. The effect on the property market is one where I feel a little bit more strongly that it's going to be a small effect. I think any rate rise is going to be small. I think that the banks, the building societies, are going to have to continue looking at lending. Supply within the property market is still going to be the big problem. It's going to be interesting to see how this government addresses that. I know they're keen to move it to a market full of home buyers, but where we have a PRS sector that has upwards of 3-4 million rental properties in it, it's not going to change overnight. I think they need to be very careful to make sure that they don't penalise landlords too much that sees them leaving the sector. So I think in summary, yeah, there's going to be a rate rise. It's going to be small. I would expect it to be potentially early next year. But the property market, I think, is going to continue to be strong. People need somewhere to live. There's not enough houses out there at the moment. The gap between supply and demand is ever increasing, and I think that is going to make sure that the market does remain buoyant. Okay, so thanks very much for all those questions that have come over. Thank you for attending today's webinar. Second of our monthly ones. We will continue with these. Keep an eye on our socials, keep an eye out on your emails. We'll let you know what we're going to be covering off next and when we're going to be doing that. In the meantime, if you do have any questions, please reach out to us either via email, pick up the phone, give us a call, or like and follow our social media channels, and we'll be more than happy to help with any questions that you've got. That's thanks from us.